Morning, Higher Hope. This is Friday, May 22nd, and just wanted to do another check in with you on just what points me to God. These evidences, to me, they're proofs that there is design, that there is a designer of that design. And what I want to talk today is probably the biggest one, the one that amazes me the most about what God has done, and it's us. It's the creation of mankind. We are created in His image, and we are very complex. And there is so much about us that just doesn't seem like it can happen by accident. We don't expect computers or refrigerators or televisions just to fall into place, and our who we are is more complex. I mean, billions times more complex than any of those things. Just think about the way that we begin. We begin with one cell, and that cell multiplies, but it doesn't multiply itself. At some point, there is the DNA that tells it when to multiply into a different cell. So we have skin cells that come from that cell. We have brain cells that come from that cell. We have blood cells and all sorts of things in the blood, and all these things, all that we are designed to be, are made from that single cell. And there's a multiplication that happens, a growth that happens in the midst of that, and all of those cells have roles and have critical things to play. And think about the complexity of all those different systems. You think about the lungs and how we don't even consider thinking about breathing unless we can't. And our lungs can take oxygen and put it in the blood, and the blood runs it through the heart, and it takes it to all the different cells to use. Think about our eyesight, that we can decipher colors, and we can see distances, and our brain processes all those things that we see, and it can admire it or kind of react to it in a split second. The complexity of the eyesight and the hearing. Our ears are incredibly complex. So I can even talk to you, and you can process what I'm saying is complex. And all the other things from the way we eat, and we don't even think about this, but the complexity of taking food, creating energy, going through the system of that, and the different just uh, things that we have that are at work in our body. I mean, then you consider the brain, how the brain functions. It has memories that we create and we can remember, and it creates emotion, and it helps us to create habits that we don't even think about, and that it helps us to breathe, and it tells our systems how to work without us even telling our systems how to work. We walk without even thinking about it. We move our hands without even thinking about it. All of that happens because we have a very complex systems, even into the touch. We touch things and we can feel it, we can figure out what it is, and we can pick up things. You know how complex it is for a computer robot to pick up things. It can be very difficult at times. They have to do a lot of development for that, to pick up an egg or to pick up something heavy, and we have that possibility in our hands and in our feet, and even the aspect of pain. None of us like pain, and yet our systems are created with these nerves in it that help us remind us when we are walking through something painful. It tells us that something's wrong in our body, and the pain is read by the brain, and the brain tells us something's wrong, and so we have to do something different in order to make that work. Our heart beats, and there's blood that flows through it, and without the heart, our whole system breaks down. Our liver cleans the blood. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I'm wowed by it. And I think the more that you are into science, biology, or if you're a doctor, the more wowed you should be at the complexity of who we are. And then you even go deeper, the complexity of our soul, that we feel emotional pain, that we desire connection, that we desire to work and do something meaningful with our life, that we can love and be loved, that we can be known, that we feel shame and rejection, that we experience guilt, that we feel broken at times, that at times we run towards something, at times we run away, that we feel emotions, we feel joy, which creates dynamic in our life, and we also feel sorrow. We feel excitement and we feel boredom. All created in our soul. We have this longing for something eternal, something long lasting. Some would say we have this God shaped hole in our hearts. That we know that there's something up there that's bigger than we are, that designed us, and we want to know who that God is. That's all part of our soul. That that we can we have will. We're not just enslaved to our natural processes. We're not just stardust firing. We have a will. We can choose right or wrong. We can choose where to eat. We can choose our whole life. We have choice. And so there's so much more there, but the amazement and the complexity of who we are as people should lead us to worship of God, not of us. That we have all these things working together. We should thank God for that, because when they're not working together, we know, and we get frustrated, we get angry, and we're like, it's not fair. We have a lot of, but when it's working right, we kind of forget about it. And so I just want us to have what God created point us to Him, because He created it, and He created it in complexity, and He created it in perfection when it's running right, and He has given us gifts after gift of things of taste and sight, and we're very sensory oriented. We learn through our senses, and all of that is a gift of God. So I hope that you have enjoyed some of these evidences, and you have your own, and I would encourage you to write them down. Just be wowed again. Be wowed by what God has done.